In the intricate web of international relations, the United States' protective stance towards Saudi Arabia stands out as a cornerstone of geopolitical strategy in the Middle East. This relationship, deeply rooted in economic, political, and security interests, has shaped regional dynamics for decades. However, what if this long-standing alliance were to shift dramatically? If the U.S. were to cease its protective role over Saudi Arabia, the repercussions would ripple across the globe, impacting areas ranging from global oil markets to the balance of power in the Middle East. This article delves into the multifaceted consequences of such a hypothetical scenario, exploring why understanding these dynamics is crucial in an increasingly interconnected world. Before we head into the next chapter, help us beat the YouTube algorithm by liking and subscribing. Thank you. Watch to the end for the punchline. You will like it. Oil markets and global economy. The first and most immediate impact of the U.S. withdrawing protection from Saudi Arabia would be felt in the global oil markets. Saudi Arabia, as one of the world's largest oil producers and the de facto leader of the Organization of the Petroleum Exporting Countries, OPEC, plays a pivotal role in setting oil prices. Historically, the U.S.-Saudi relationship has provided a layer of stability to the kingdom, allowing it to produce and export oil without significant geopolitical disruptions. Without U.S. protection, Saudi Arabia could face increased security threats, potentially disrupting oil production. Such disruptions could lead to significant volatility in oil prices, as global markets react to the uncertainty and potential supply shortages. This volatility would not only affect consumers at the gas pump but would also ripple through the broader global economy. Industries reliant on oil, from manufacturing to transportation, would face increased costs, potentially slowing economic growth and leading to inflationary pressures. Additionally, Saudi Arabia might seek new security alliances, potentially with countries like China or Russia, which could lead to a realignment in global oil politics. Such a shift could alter the dynamics of OPEC and affect global oil supply agreements, further complicating the oil market landscape. The geopolitical landscape of the Middle East has long been shaped by the intricate relationship between the United States and Saudi Arabia. The prospect of the U.S. withdrawing its protective umbrella from Saudi Arabia brings into focus a complex array of potential outcomes, each with its own set of consequences for regional stability, balance of power, and international alliances. Geopolitical shifts in the Middle East. Central to understanding the geopolitical implications of a U.S. withdrawal is the Saudi-Iran rivalry. This sectarian and geopolitical tension between Sunni-majority Saudi Arabia and Shia-majority Iran has been a defining feature of Middle Eastern politics. The U.S. presence in the region has traditionally acted as a counterbalance to Iran, often siding with Saudi Arabia and its Sunni allies. Without U.S. backing, Saudi Arabia may perceive an increased threat from Iran, which could escalate regional tensions. This escalation could take several forms. Saudi Arabia might increase its military spending and seek to develop its own advanced military capabilities, potentially sparking an arms race in the region. Alternatively, the kingdom could pursue a policy of détente with Iran, seeking to reduce tensions and establish a new modus vivendi. This approach could lead to a realignment of alliances, with countries like the United Arab Emirates, Bahrain, and others reassessing their own regional strategies in response to a potential Saudi-Iran thaw. The vacuum left by a retreating U.S. could invite intervention from other global powers, notably Russia and China. Russia has already established a foothold in the region through its involvement in Syria and could seek to expand its influence by offering military and economic support to Saudi Arabia. Such a development would significantly alter the regional power dynamics, potentially leading to a new axis of power centered around Moscow. China, with its growing global ambitions and reliance on Middle Eastern oil, might also see an opportunity to increase its influence in the region. Unlike Russia, China's approach would likely be more economic than military, potentially involving significant investments in Saudi infrastructure and energy sectors under its Belt and Road Initiative. This economic partnership could shift the balance of power in the region, reducing the traditional dominance of Western-aligned powers. Another critical aspect of a U.S. withdrawal would be its impact on Israel and the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. The U.S.-Saudi alliance has been a key factor in the recent normalization of relations between Israel and several Arab states, including the UAE and Bahrain. Without U.S. support, Saudi Arabia may reassess its position on Israel, potentially slowing or reversing the recent moves towards normalization. This shift could have significant implications for the Israeli-Palestinian peace process and broader regional stability. The Middle East is rife with proxy conflicts, where regional powers, including Saudi Arabia and Iran, have vied for influence. In Yemen, for instance, Saudi Arabia has been engaged in a protracted conflict against the Houthi rebels, who are perceived to be backed by Iran. The withdrawal of U.S. support could force Saudi Arabia to seek a political solution to the Yemen conflict, potentially leading to a de-escalation of one of the region's most devastating humanitarian crises. In Syria, Iraq, and Lebanon, the change in Saudi Arabia's strategic posture could also lead to shifts in how these proxy conflicts are fought and potentially resolved. Saudi Arabia might choose to reduce its involvement in these conflicts, leading to a recalibration of alliances and strategies among the various regional and non-regional actors involved. The withdrawal of U.S. protection from Saudi Arabia would likely herald a period of significant upheaval and realignment in the Middle East. The potential for escalated tensions with Iran, the involvement of other global powers, impacts on the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, and shifts in the dynamics of regional proxy conflicts are just a few of the critical areas that would be affected. This scenario underscores the intricate interplay of regional politics and the far-reaching implications of changes in long-standing alliances. As such, it serves as a vivid reminder of the delicate balance that underpins the stability and security of the Middle East. Impact on global counterterrorism efforts. A critical aspect of the U.S.-Saudi relationship has been cooperation in counterterrorism. Saudi Arabia's strategic location and influence in the Islamic world have made it an essential partner in combating extremism in the Middle East. The cessation of U.S. protection could significantly impact these joint counterterrorism efforts. Without U.S. support, Saudi Arabia might find it more challenging to maintain internal security and combat terrorist groups within its borders. This challenge could be exacerbated if the kingdom faces increased economic or political instability, conditions that terrorist organizations often exploit. Furthermore, without the intelligence sharing and military support from the U.S., Saudi Arabia's ability to participate in regional counterterrorism operations might be diminished. The withdrawal of U.S. protection could also lead to a realignment of Saudi Arabia's foreign policy, potentially impacting its involvement in regional conflicts like the war in Yemen. Such shifts could create new dynamics in these conflicts, possibly creating opportunities for terrorist groups to gain ground. Additionally, other countries might fill the void left by the U.S. in counterterrorism cooperation with Saudi Arabia. If these countries have different approaches or priorities in counterterrorism, it could lead to a fragmented and less effective global effort against terrorism. Domestic implications for Saudi Arabia. The U.S. withdrawal of protection would also have profound domestic implications for Saudi Arabia. The kingdom has long relied on U.S. military support to bolster its defense capabilities. Without this support, Saudi Arabia might need to significantly increase its military spending to maintain its defense posture, potentially at the expense of other domestic priorities. The loss of U.S. protection could also impact the internal political dynamics of Saudi Arabia. The ruling monarchy has used its alliance with the U.S. as a source of legitimacy and stability. A shift in this relationship could lead to increased calls for political reform within the kingdom, potentially leading to social and political unrest. Furthermore, the perceived vulnerability could exacerbate existing regional tensions within the country, such as the Shiite minority in the eastern province, who might perceive an opportunity to push for greater rights or autonomy in the absence of strong U.S. backing for the Saudi government. In the economic realm, facing increased security risks and potential isolation, Saudi Arabia might accelerate its efforts to diversify its economy beyond oil, as outlined in its Vision 2030 plan. This diversification could lead to significant changes in the kingdom's economic structure and its role in the global economy. Conclusion. The hypothetical scenario of the U.S. ceasing its protective role over Saudi Arabia presents a complex and multifaceted picture, with significant implications for global oil markets, geopolitical dynamics in the Middle East, counterterrorism efforts, and Saudi Arabia's domestic landscape. Understanding these potential outcomes is not just an exercise in speculation. It provides valuable insights into the delicate balance of international relations and the far-reaching impact of major policy shifts. As the world becomes increasingly interconnected, the repercussions of such a strategic realignment would extend far beyond the borders of the U.S. and Saudi Arabia, underscoring the importance of carefully considering the long-term implications of foreign policy decisions. If the US stops guarding Saudi Arabia, it might be the biggest shift in Middle East relations since camels discovered they're not the only way to travel across the desert. Until next time, take care.